And good afternoon. I'm meteorologist Chris Franklin in the Pinpoint Forecast Center. At 1 o'clock, we are still watching the very latest on Hurricane Harvey. Now, as of the 1 p.m. update, we still only have a Category 2, I say still, Category 2 storm, but it is likely going to at least get to a weak Category 3 just prior to landfall, possibly either late tonight or early tomorrow morning right around the Corpus Christi area. Let's take a look at our graphics and show you what is happening right now. This is our visible satellite, and this is a high resolution GOES 16. This is that new satellite we've been talking about. This satellite gives us data every minute, so you get a really clear, up-to-the-minute picture of what this storm looks like over the Gulf waters. And you see a very well-defined eye. That is indicative of a very strong storm. And what we're likely seeing is possible intensification. I'm actually a little surprised that we did not see the Hurricane Center increase this to a Category 3 storm. However, it is definitely closing in on that status. It only needs one more mile-an-hour wind to be classified under the Saffir-Simpson scale as a Cat 3 storm. It is going to be a powerful storm moving toward coastal Texas. Radar, and it's now close enough to the coastline that we do have radar imagery of the storm. Very impressive. Those outer bands already making their way, and have been since early this morning, across coastal Texas and even as close as parts of southwest Louisiana. So you have Cameron and Vermilion Parish with some of those rain bands feeding into it. We've had a few coastal showers in southeast Louisiana. You could kind of say they are associated with Harvey, not directly. They're certainly following the motion around the center of the storm from the southeast toward the northwest, but to say they're directly caused by Harvey, not exactly. The storm, as this storm got better and better organized, most of the heavy rainfall kind of concentrates itself to near the center, and so you get more organization and kind of a tighter, compact storm. Once it moves inland and begins weakening, we'll likely see that rainfall start spreading out over a greater coverage area across the Gulf Coast. So right now, winds at 110 miles an hour, motion still not changed toward the northwest at 10. Pressure has come down slightly, now at 945. Earlier observation or earlier advisory was at 947 millibars. Latest track, well, it's the same as our earlier track. We're not going to see this forecast track change until the 4 p.m. advisory. Still not much motion once inland, so over the course of the weekend, early next week, and even to the middle of next week, we're looking at this storm remaining basically 2 hour west, and that means we stay on the wet side. So our rainfall will continue through at least the middle of next week, possibly going until the latter half of next week. Look at some of the wave heights that we have seen. Now, these are observed wave heights based on actual buoys, and one of the highest just north, kind of between Corpus Christi and Brownsville, of 22-foot wave heights. That obviously is sending any storm surge across a lot of the coastal areas, as well as some of the more inland bays south of Houston, around Galveston and Corpus as well. Now look at the computer models. This is what we've been kind of focusing on, because these keep changing in some instances drastically from run to run. You get the more updated models, or the more accurate, well, I hate to say accurate models, but the more complete model runs at two specific times during the day, and these are the latest from the GFS as well as the European. This is the GFS model, so moving inland again, no question there. GFS kind of sits near the coast, maybe just off the coastline, but notice moving back inland, and this is on Wednesday. Here we go to Thursday. Friday, the storm is still sitting, or what is left of the storm is basically still sitting over the coastal plains of Texas. So the GFS model has almost zero motion from moving inland to next Friday. That would be 7 days of the storm, or what is left of the storm by this point, basically sitting in essence one location. Here we go with the European model, and let's see if this is the newest run. I know we were starting to get some data from the 12Z run. Moving inland again, no question about it. The European kind of has it moving back over the open waters, or at least near the coastline, and then notice by Thursday and into Friday, quickly starting to move up toward the north, obviously in response to an upper trough, which would draw what is left of Harvey northward. Maybe not necessarily making a second landfall in coastal Louisiana, maybe Texas, maybe southwestern Louisiana. Again, that really isn't that important. Point is, with this model, it has the storm moving. Remember, the GFS at the same time basically still sitting over southern Texas. That affects the rainfall totals based on these two different models. This is the GFS model going through Friday afternoon. We're looking at 5 inches to 6 inches of rainfall across southeast Louisiana over 5 days, 6, 7 days. That's not terrible. And this is the European. Now remember, the European model doesn't have the storm sitting nearly as long and quickly moving out. European model has 2, maybe 3 inches of rainfall across southeast Louisiana. Again, neither model is really indicating substantial rainfall. Now the Weather Service is going with 5 to 10, and I think that is still a pretty good estimate for our rainfall amounts. And again, these rainfall amounts are going to continue changing as we get new information from our models. And notice again, the models keep changing one way or another. GFS and the European, we've not seen any kind of consistency beyond really 24 to 36 hours. So beyond 36 hours on both of these models, we have not seen much in the way of consistency at all. So to look at that forecasted track from the Hurricane Center, take that with a grain of salt, because that is going to continue to change over the course of the life of Harvey. What we will certainly see here, again, a lot of uncertainty with the future of where it's going to go, but with that storm basically meandering out to our west, we will see some coastal flooding as tides will be running about 2 to 4 feet above normal. Main concern is we're going to have sustained winds out of the east and southeast starting this weekend and lasting through the better part of next week. That is going to cause that water to start piling up into the lakes, as well as any of our eastern, mainly eastern-facing shoreline, and piling up that water. So we are going to see some coastal flooding, mainly in areas, or primarily in areas outside of the levee protection system. Heavy rain, again, that 5 to 10, that number is going to be very fluid over the next several days because it just depends on exactly what Harvey does. Now, there is also the potential that some of those outer bands, if they start moving in, possibly by Sunday, more so into Monday and Tuesday, that just the sheer rotation of a tropical system lends itself to easily producing these tropical tornadoes. They tend to be weak and short-lived, but can certainly produce some damage. So we will be on the watch for that, and it wouldn't be out of the question to see probably several tornado watches issued for all of South Louisiana, maybe starting by Sunday, but certainly as we head into next week. Again, not a whole lot of steering with Harvey, so we're not seeing much in the way of motion even once it is inland. So that's going to be our greatest concern, is that we would like to see this storm move in and then be done with it, but that just does not look to be the case with Harvey, as once it moves inland, most of the models, at least they do agree that we're not going to see much motion as to exactly where the storm goes or where it meanders. Does it stay in the coastal plains? Does it move just offshore? There is still a lot of uncertainty with that. What we do know, again, coastal flooding, and we are anticipating several days of not just constant rain, but certainly on and off rain. We're not going to get that rain shield of just the just non-stop rain that folks in Texas are going to get. We may get bands to move on through here and there. Now, of course, if we see any kind of rain training where it just moves over the same place over and over for a long period of time, then those are certainly going to be the areas where we could see some flooding. Where those could set up, impossible to tell right now. We'll just have to see what happens. Again, today, looking actually mostly dry. Tomorrow, our rain chances will start to increase. We're not going to really feel the impacts of Harvey's rainfall, again, from outer bands until probably on Sunday and more so into next week. And next week is looking like it could be a pretty soggy week, as our showers will stay on and off through Monday and possibly into Thursday. GFS model would have that rainfall continuing through Friday, maybe even into next weekend for us, whereas the Euro has the storm moving up to the north, which means we would start to dry out possibly by Friday and into next weekend. We'll have another update. We'll be updating on social media as we get new coordinate information, but we're not going to have a new forecasted track from the Hurricane Center until their 4 p.m. advisory. So you can expect around 4 o'clock or so we will have a much longer social media update at 4 o'clock. At 2 and 3 o'clock, we'll likely just post the latest coordinates and new information as it becomes available from Hurricane Harvey. For now, I'm meteorologist Chris Franklin in the Pinpoint Forecast Center.